So when we left you last week, we had the first 2 coats of primer added to the boat. And I thought I'd start this week's video kind of showing how they go ahead and mast this. You can see these 2 tarps kind of connected together. And they're on the stern of our boat, pulling this out to the end of our dinghy davits. They have it connected to the edge of the building next door. And then right between the brown and the green, the blue tarp, they actually have another line that they pull out over to the docks. And it gives them a little bit more space right here. It's an interesting operation, but it seems to work because there's no overspray over on the boats over there, or even that building next to it where it's Nick's fabrication shop that does aluminum and stainless work. So I thought I'd take you with me as we go through the yard. You'll kind of see what this looks like. So we start outside of the tarps when they have them up from painting, kind of duck underneath the ladder, weave your way underneath some of the scaffolding between the boat stands. You can kind of see the rudder and prop here. It gives you an idea on just the size of the boat. This is me walking, carrying the camera at eye level, kind of around the other side of the stern, near the crane, and oh, hi Deb. And then we kind of walk down this little dock. It's interesting, this part of the dock I'm on now actually swings out. I think I'll show that in a later video. That allows them to move boats right up against the bulkhead to ultimately get to the crane. That's sailing vessel Born Free. Mark was very kind, sending us pictures from time to time when we weren't at the boat. And then there she sits up in the up on the hard. So as you know, we've been having the bilges cleaned and painted as well, and this is actually in the salon. You can kind of see underneath it, and they painted all the way up to the bottom of the sole, which is really good. I think they did a great job here. It's ship gray. We'll get more done as well. But from there, I'll kind of take you down. This is through the back opening in the rear stateroom, looking forward. And it's not all complete yet. It's a little hard to get footage here, but you can look toward the engine room and see what it looks like. So this is the rear drive shaft area, the engine room facing forward, and then a little further back in the engine room behind the transmission. So I had to go out of town for work, went to Las Vegas for a user conference, and I went to a private concert of Train. This is at The Joint, the Hard Rock Casino in Vegas. It's pretty good. I'll show a couple of clips for you. Well, the concert was great, and on the way back from the airport, I swung back by the boat. They had pulled some of the masking off to kind of show what it looks like, and you can see how nice the varnished wood looks against the stern as well as the rub rail on the side. But they did start on the mast. You might have noticed the mizzen was off in that picture. I'll show you what we have done here. So as I mentioned in one of our earlier videos, our Mizzenmast was still wooden, and here it is. They've removed it and brought it over here to put it on some racks, and you can kind of see it's actually in really good shape. I thought for sure there would be a little bit more rod in it. Chances are I could keep this and it would be just fine. The yard owner said that it's been a couple years since he picked one of these up. He doesn't know if this one is just that much heavier or he's not quite as strong as he once was. But they ended up strapping a couple of dollies together to move it. What's interesting is that it has spreaders on it, but they're not spreaders like you would see on a main where the stays actually go down the end of them. They're essentially just there to hold up the lights. So I think I'm going to remake these spreaders out of hardwood and attach them back onto the new mast. So here's kind of an aerial view. I climbed up the steps and looked down. You can see my mast on the right. And on the left is an aluminum mast I showed in one of the earlier videos, an old one he had laying around that we believe we can modify to replace this one. And here it is. It's significantly longer, as you can see. We're just now getting to the bottom of my mast. What I like about this is it has all these inner channels to run the lines down through. It looks like I can get, if not 2, maybe even all 3 halyards inside the mast. Not sure I will or not. But you can see it's already been starting to be sanded down. so that it'll have a nice smooth finish, and we'll paint it to match the same color as the aluminum main. See, it's sanded here again as well. But yeah, there's some modifications we certainly have to make on this. There's a couple of places we'll need to reinforce to attach the spreaders, and we're going to leverage the hardware that's on our mast today, have it fabricated or adjusted so that we can leverage all of that hardware and keep the same sort of contact points. More on this in a bit. It's exciting and scary every time we come to the yard. It's so cool to kind of see the transformation of the boat. It's scary because I keep adding stuff to the list. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, but it's going to be nice to try and get some more of this done. And we're going to get a quote to see what it would take to glass the decks and repair the coach house. I'm nervous. I know it's going to be high, but it's it's one of those things that we've been putting off for 3 years and we haven't gotten it done. So if we want to do it, let's at least find out what it's going to take, and maybe this is something we can do. Could be good stuff. Well, Michael called us and wanted to talk a little bit about the mast, but I found this footage of the 2 dollies that they had tied together to essentially roll the mast on over. I thought I'd get a kick out of showing it there. I apologize for the sound here. For some reason, we didn't have the microphone on the camera, but this was really just a discussion a little bit about what they uncovered with the mast. So this is, they had just taken it down, and he wanted me to kind of walk through this whole thing with them. Kind of talking a little bit about the different hardware and what we would ultimately use. And I really want to make sure that we can continue to use our wooden booms on the new aluminum mast. I love the way they look. But the connection point that we're looking at right here is actually a cast bronze connection point that connects to the mast. And it's rather wide compared to a rounded aluminum mast. So we're talking about ways of doing that. Initially, Michael was talking about doing a doubler plate behind it of the right metal, and then using that as a way to sort of move it over to the other mast. And just putting the appropriate metal spacer between the two so that the cast bronze and aluminum wouldn't cause a problem. As he considered this a little bit more, we ended up changing our mind a little later in the day for 2 reasons. One, instead of building up essentially a plate, kind of like you would mount a winch to, we were able to instead use the old jib pole track that was the same size as my boom car. And by mounting that, it actually can be tap and died and mounted into the center of the other mast. That's what we plan on doing, and I'll show that when it ultimately gets done. But again, without the sound here, what we're talking about is some decisions around what we want to do with the height of certain things on the mast itself. And we're talking about should the radar be moved up or the GPS antennas that we're putting our hands on here.
And we don't need to make any of those decisions right now, but this could come up here. You might want the additional height. Maybe It really doesn't matter, but it does. It's at some point this stuff will transfer over, and we'll again do some doublers for receiving them, just because we can.
Sure, just to make sure they're
back to the winches. Now let's talk about them.
So sorry, they were doing some sanding on some fiberglass in here, and it was very loud. So I'm going to try and talk over this a little bit and hopefully match up what Michael's saying. He wanted to talk a little bit about the winches and saying no matter where the winches are going to go over on the other mast, they're going to go into what they call a receiver, essentially a welded plate that gets welded to it and then drilled and tapped, so they're not screwing it into the mast, right? So that way it's good and strong. But he said what he wants us to talk about is the location of the winches. He's not so big on these things being very low. It's all in your back when you're trying to work on them. He said he likes to have it at chest high or waist high. He's saying if you can, he said he sort of gets tired, right? So if he can get it up at the right height, he can sort of go up and down and use his legs, put his legs into it as opposed to just his arms. So he said he likes winches higher rather than lower. He said there's an argument that says, you don't really want to be out on the deck when things pitching around on a 40-foot waves and everything needs to be low. He said he still likes it there, and he doesn't care, but he wants to. It's something we need to think about, and something that we need to look at around how the boat comes into play with this. He asked if the mast was stepped into the cockpit, and what I was explaining here is it's actually not. It sits on top of the coach house, so it's an extra 2.5 feet taller. So what he's saying is then it may not be as important. We just need to go up and sort of feel out the configuration and figure it out, because we'll move everything over, but we want to move it before obviously they weld the pieces on it, and the cleats and everything else we can figure out down the road. Not anything right now.
We cut it a little long. Because we could. It made it easier to come and go in here. That's the rest of it.
So our old mast had an external track that had cars that rode up and down it. With this new mast, we can either attach that to it and still leave the external cars, or this already has the slot in the aluminum just like the main, and the question is, do we put on slugs that run inside of that? And I was asking Michael, I feel like the outbound ones are probably stronger, and he said probably a little bit, but this is the mizzen, it's probably fine. If it's good enough for the main, it should be more than sufficient for the mizzen as well. So I have some thoughts to kind of gather around this and see if that's what we want to do. So I showed a very similar video to this earlier, but I thought I'd show this because they've already cut the mast a little long, as Michael was explaining earlier in the video, but you can now see my mast to the right, the old one, and the new aluminum one to the left, or new to me. So as Deb and I walked over to the boat to kind of contemplate a little bit about the mast, we noticed that it seemed a little shinier than it had in the previous visit. So the good news is it looks like they actually put the first layer of white paint on the boat over the actual primer. And I saw the guy coming by with the mast, so I knew they were still working on it on the other side. I'll show a little bit about what it looks like over here. So Deb has the camera and she's kind of showing at the bow. You can see the reflection. Those little lines, that's not run lines or wrinkles. It's actually just the reflection of the corrugated metal on the building on the other side of us. Looks really good. Lionel and the other guy were still working on the back scaffolding here, just kind of wrapping up this corner. I thought I'd go ahead and show it again from this angle, and like I said, you can just see the reflection. It looks phenomenal. I'm really pleased, and this is the first coat of DuPont Marine. This is not the final coat, nor is it the final color. You will see quite a bit of black going on here as well. It's going to look really good. But again, you can see him getting this stuff sprayed. It's truly amazing how good a job they're able to do. I guess for some reason I always think of painting, and I think it's in a paint booth, and it's temperature controlled and cured and no wind, and these guys do an amazing job with a tarp up there to protect from overspray, and the quality of the work is just phenomenal. To me, it looks absolutely wonderful. This is the first time I've actually seen them doing any of this work where one of the guys wasn't wearing the Tyvek suit. Usually they're both kind of covered in the Tyvek suits there, but away we go. So a few hours later, I want to just kind of take a look at this thing. I just can't get over how good it looks. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't expect that, or maybe I was thinking it would be a less shiny finish since we're not doing gel coat. I'm not sure what my thoughts were, but I'm really pleased with the way this looks. I mean, I went ahead and turned around just to show the reflection. I mean, you can see the reflection of that ladder with the colored steps and the whole bit. I'm thrilled so far. I can't wait to get the black on here too. So when we got to the marina, we saw this Bruce Roberts ketch with wooden masts, and definitely looked like the sailor on this boat probably had some stories to tell. Certainly a cruiser. It was kind of neat. Turned out later it was a good friend of ours that we'd met through Facebook that happens to follow the blog, so it was really kind of cool to get to see and talk to Michelle as well. Well, as we wrap up the video for this week, I thought I'd show this. They went ahead and pulled the masking off the back of the boat so you could see the varnished nameplate on the white background. Now, again, this is not going to be white, but it looks so good with that varnished teak on there. I just thought, let me show that. That looks neat. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll keep you updated next week. Close this one out with a nice time lapse off the stern as we were clearing some stuff off the deck, but this was probably about 2 hours, sped up to about 40 seconds. Hey everybody, thanks for watching, and please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even Tumblr. Please take a moment and go over to our website at svdreamchaser.com to download free resources for cruising and how-to projects. Get your thumbs and mouses ready. We also have a couple of links right on the screen for some other playlists and videos that we think you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching, fellow dreamers.